Welcome to Simply Walk the Talk. Our bodies and minds adapt to what we do most of the time. If you want to change your body and mind, you must change what it is you do most of the time. This podcast explores all things health, wellness, fitness, lifestyle, and biohacking. Stay tuned as we explore various thoughts, methods, and experiences from a multitude of conversations between our interesting guests and experts through many fields of work. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Simply walk the talk. Simply walk the talk.
We are live.
What's up, everybody? We are live, yeah. So everybody, first, thank you for making the time to join us. We're going to get started in a couple of minutes. Kind of while we're waiting, if you wouldn't mind going into the chat, kind of just sharing where you guys are dialing in from, that would be great. Get some intros out there. I myself am Sergio. We're offices in Berwyn. That's where I'm at. Jordan, where are you at?
I am currently at my home office in Delray Beach, Florida. It's 98 today and going up to 110 heat index. So I'm happy to be inside right now talking to two great men.
And I'm Josh. I'm here in New York City in the heart of Harlem. And it's hot here as well. But we're at 86 right now. So high of 88 today. Not bad considering it has been worse here.
Absolutely. Mike, good
It's
to see you.
been an interesting summer. That's for sure. You know, it's kind of been, I feel like we've had a couple of really bad heat waves, but it's also been pretty pleasant at times as well. So
It's true. Yeah. And we've been getting a lot of rain. It's so funny. Like, I used to always make fun of older people when they would talk about the weather and they would talk about this and that. We need rain. It's been too much rain, or the weather's this. And here I am now, you know, the ripe old age of 45. And I am talking about the weather.
yeah. Yeah, that's kind of like that's one of the only premium apps that I subscribe to is AccuWeather. So I'm right there with you, man. Cool.
Sweet.
All right. Well, I got 101. All right. So I'm going to kick us off with the series and why we're doing this. Jordan's going to introduce Josh, and then we're going to this is going to be part kind of Josh giving us some wisdom, hoping to come away with at least one mind-blowing idea that we can put into action. But otherwise, we're going to kind of make it more like a podcast and just kind of vibe off of each other. We did some of that earlier, and Josh was like, hey, we should be recording this. So we're going to try and make this fun, engaging along the way, dump some questions or anything in the chat, even if you've got knowledge, experience, and all that we're talking about. So health is wealth, right? So we spend all of our time here at Hearthfire, you know, living, eating, and breathing self-storage investing, right? And when all is said and done, we always come back and say, all right, why are we doing this? You know, we go back, Corinne and myself, we go back all the way back from when we started and just say why. Our purpose has always been when we learn or experience something that we feel is very impactful for us, that we feel not just compelled to share, but a life obligation to share. And that, you know, is interesting as a human species. That's what our role is, to lift each other up, is to really make each other a little better. So when we started to think about how can we provide additional value to our community beyond just, hey, income or growth investments, we started putting our heads together. And obviously, health and wealth go hand in hand, and one and the other kind of can be interchangeable. So that's what this series is about. Hopefully you get some really good value out of it. We're going to send out a survey after, and stick around because we're going to announce kind of something else that we're going to tie along with that survey. So hopefully you can stick to the end. If you can't, it's going to be recorded. So that's the series. We're looking to do more of this. This is just the start, and we're excited to have Josh. And Jordan, why don't you share how you know Josh and where you guys come from?
Awesome. Thanks, Serge. And for anyone who just joined, please chime in where you're calling in from. And also feel free at any time to ask questions in the chat. We're going to talk about a lot of interesting stuff. And please don't be shy. We're going to take the questions in turn and happy to answer them as we go. But without further ado, I wanted to introduce a close buddy of mine and a former colleague of mine, Josh Holland. Josh has an amazing resume, which consists of sports, being a celebrity trainer, an enthusiast for all things health, and a biohacker. He knows if there has been something that has been brought on the market when it comes to any sort of health, fitness, diet, etc., Josh has probably tried it. So when I was thinking about this effort and how to give back to our community of investors and offer something different, I thought of Josh right away. Josh and I also were part of opening up a fitness studio that my wife and I opened in Manhattan, how we met Josh in about 15 years ago. Josh helped tremendously with building the content and led 2 or 3 group fitness exercise classes where he brought in folks and he trained them. But at the end of that effort, what I learned from Josh is that this guy knows a lot. People love him. And I learned so much from him over that time. And, he transformed people's bodies at the time in the gym, but also helped them with their diet and with their overall plan for health. One little factoid is Josh used to wear these shoes that were like grips on the ground. And he's the one that taught me about how being close to the earth and not having much space in between your feet and the ground is really valuable. And fast forward many years, you see people in the NFL, Mac Hollins, he's training on the field with no shoes on. And every time I think about Josh and whoever I'm with, I say, I've seen this for many years, almost, a decade and a half.
Yeah.
But I could go on and on about Josh and how much I love him, but let's dive right in and talk about, I guess, the book that you just wrote that came out and your pillars that book was, based upon, and we could take the conversation from there. But
yeah, first of all,
Josh,
a huge thank you to both Serge and Jordan and anyone else that's joining or anyone else that eventually sees or hears this. I like to take these moments to practice gratitude because we all are busy, we all have things going on, but to be able to show up and share, I think rather than me teach anyone anything, I love to share, because what I want this to be is a conversation that is an interactive conversation. And maybe right now it's only through a chat, but we want to be able to have conversations where we all come together and take something away from it, even if it's just one thing, like Serge, like you mentioned. And what I want to start off by saying is that all of what I talk about, all of what I've experienced throughout my life and my career is based off of this insatiable curiosity. And this is something that I feel like when you find the right group of people who are open and very curious, then it's easy to have certain levels of conversation. We don't have the same conversations we have with the acquaintance, but sometimes we have these really deep, thoughtful experiences and moments with people that we trust. And this is what I've built with my clients. And this is what I've built with the brands that I've worked with. And I think it's one of the reasons why I'm still here, at a certain level, and it's only going up. So, Serge, I know you like talking about scaling, and that's what I love to think about. But it always starts with one thought, one idea, one movement, which that was the business that we built, Jordan, right? Or that you built, and then I helped out with the movement. Every once in a while, I still wear the shirt, move forward, right?
Yeah.
From the moment that you guys came out with that merch, I just thought, yeah, they get it. They absolutely get it, because there was a charity component tied to that, and giving back, and is not only giving back financially, but it was also giving back with the information that we collectively shared. It wasn't just about one class, one trainer. It was about the group and the universe. So anyway, I digress. So I wrote a book a few years ago, actually. So I wrote this book called The Awareness Shift. So I'm holding it up for those who are only listening. this is something that I tried to create as a resource for those many people who kept asking me, Josh, like, what is it that you do? Because if we are really honest with ourselves, people like to lump you into a category so that they can then make a judgment about you, whether that's positive or negative. They want to lump you into a category to say, oh, you mean Josh the trainer? Well, they can no longer just say that, because I was also doing nutrition, and I was doing massage, and I was doing physical therapy, and I was doing content creation, and I was a podcast host. So now it wasn't just, oh, that one guy who does blah. It's, oh, you mean Joshua J. Holland, right? Oh yeah, when you talk about him, I kind of have this understanding of what he does, but what really does he do? So I came out with this book that tried to break down, if you will, a series of concepts that I segmented it into 5 steps or 5 pillars. So I called it the 5 pillars of optimal wellness. But if I'm being honest, even here saying this, it's hard to distill everything into 5 pillars because the world is so vast, right? And I think specialization has maybe screwed up our modern history, um, because
Yeah.
when it comes to doctors, and people ask me, Josh, you know so much, how come you're not a doctor? Well, it's because I didn't want to be limited to what the medical industry is saying. I'm not trashing the medical industry, which maybe I could or should, but what I'm saying is that when you go into specialization, that it's almost like you miss the forest for the tree, right? And it's like, I don't want to be that person. I want to be a resource that says, okay, if I don't know something, then surely someone in my ecosystem does. So last thing I'll say here, the 5 pillars of optimal health and wellness are broken down into almost like a triage effect. And the 5 pillars are, number 1 is quality awareness. And the reason why I have that at number 1 is because I feel like that's the thing that we should maybe focus the most on. And we have the capacity to focus the most on. And that is just simply being aware. And awareness comes in many different shapes and forms. I'm sure people listening right now are probably thinking like, okay, well, what does that mean? And why is that more important than what I eat? Well, because the next down the list that is maybe most important, but also that we have the most time to focus on, is quality rest and recovery, right? We should be thinking about awareness and recovery more so than we should be thinking about anything else. And then as we go down that inverted pyramid, as we start to go down, we get to quality consumption. Now, that's the piece where people are like, oh, yeah, this is what we should really be focusing on, because, okay, what we eat, what we drink is important to focus on. But I open that even broader and say our environment, our epigenetic factors, the things that are around us, because at the end of the day, we are all energy beings. And our environment also contributes energy to our system that our system has to deal with, our nervous system, right? So if we can focus on quality consumption, then steps 1, 2, and 3, if those are done well, then steps 4 and 5, pillars 4 and 5, become the icing on the proverbial cake. So pillar number 4 is quality activeness. So now people go, oh yeah, Josh, the trainer. Yeah, okay, surely he's going to be talking about activeness and being active, right? Yes. But the reason why I have quality activeness ahead of quality exercise is because there is a distinction between the two. And I think that should get people to ask the question, well, what does he mean? We could talk about that later. But quality activeness, we can do far more than we can do quality exercise, because the quality exercise is a specialization component. So,
all right. So Josh, this is so when Jordan shared with me a kind of a voice memo that Josh shared regarding kind of his 5 pillars, and I myself have been a lifelong health enthusiast. I kind of on the opposite end, trying to course correct all the bad things that I do and think and feel and all that, right? And I always tell people that if there was a product that GNC sold, I'm sure I took it and tried it, right? And like, I just came back from physical therapy dealing with some shoulder, elbow issues, and I'm into dry needling. I want to start with, the way you described the pillars is brilliant. I haven't heard that before. So kudos to you, because I fundamentally agree that self-awareness is where it all starts, right? Like, even if you go back to any kind of abuse, alcohol, drug abuse, or whatever, it is kind of first acknowledging what is, right? How am I showing up? I myself, like, when I was in my 20s, dealt with an anxiety issue. Before you knew it, literally thought I was dying. I always laugh when I think of the movie Analyze This. It's just like, yes, I had 5 heart attacks this week, right? When in reality, it's just anxiety, panic attacks, and whatnot. And I'm going through all this blood work and everything, and nothing's coming back. I'm hearing the doctor in the hallway talking about, well, maybe it's leukemia, lymphoma. And I'm like, okay, now I'm definitely dying, right? When all was said and done, I end up in a psychologist's office. I'm like, what the heck? Is this all in my head? That was my first exposure to the power of the mind, right? So for me, that led me to a meditation practice. And that has been huge for me in developing mindfulness and self-awareness. Talk about what you've learned, and how did you land on that being the first pillar of all your work?
Ooh, well, okay. There's a lot in this, and I will try to keep this as concise as possible because maybe someone is really interested in this piece of the chat and they ask some questions and we can dive deeper. We want to let this be for you guys and the audience, obviously. So, I feel like I am very lucky and blessed to have been born with a certain level of awareness. And it wasn't just that I had the capacity to have the awareness, but I lived a life that I was able to recognize my power. And it almost feels weird to say it because we're not Marvel characters here, but we can be, right? There's something beautiful about when we are little kids, that the world is a huge fantasy that we get to create, and it's shaped by our peers and the people, the authority figures and our parents and the people around us. And that's why we see the world shifting the way it is because it's based on, you have this moment of fantasy and everything is possible. And then it's just slowly limited, slowly specialized into one piece. We forget that the human being is much more than just how much you know, how much you can remember, how high you can jump and how fast you can run. There's so much complexity to what we are. And when we realize that, when we're self-aware and we can sort of segment the ego and what responsibility it actually has in our life, then we can actually let the ego counterpart be something that is our ally as opposed to our enemy, and this is very esoteric in speaking. This is not normally how I am, but it's within me. But then I just feel called to talk about this right now because I feel like answering your question, and I'm trying to get there, is that I was born with a certain amount of, or a certain capacity of awareness. But then throughout my formative years, I had my parents who were deep into martial arts and had a certain life that they were raised in, that they were able to instill so much self-awareness within me. And I think a lot of that comes from my martial arts upbringing, right? Martial arts usually is the foundation is an Eastern philosophy, which talks about energy and chakras and chi force and all these different things. And the Western world looks at that and goes, okay, come on, like that doesn't equate to money in my bank, right? But it could, right? And not to say we want to capitalize on everything, but there is a way to share and to be able to do what we're doing now, create a community around topics that may not be normal, right? Like let's lean into the weird a little bit. Let's lean into the esoteric. Why are we so resistant to trying something different? So me being aware started very early, but I had my true awareness shift after this book was first published. And that journey came when I did a psychedelic retreat for 5 days upstate, well, not in upstate New York, but like not here in New York. And that was the moment that I realized that we are all connected. And this is the point where people go, oh, come on, here we go now. He's going to start talking about chakras and meditation. And no. I'm just saying that, and I didn't maybe have to go that route, but when I did decide to go that route, it took me a long time to finally go down the route of doing this. My whole existence was just open. It was like the veil was pulled apart, or it was lifted, as they say. I was able to peer into it, and it made me think. And then this was maybe, how many years ago was this? My daughter is about to be 5, so this was maybe 4 years ago this happened to me, right? And I just looked at everything after that experience of, wow, each person that is going through pain in life it's almost like this baby that just maybe wasn't fed when it was asked to be fed, or the baby wasn't being cleaned when there was poop in the diaper, right? Like, we're fathers, we know what that looks like. Can you imagine not showing up for your child when your child needs something? Well, if you can imagine that for your own child, then what if you also have that perception of the person that is on the street, that is an adult, that is really an adult baby, that also was going through some pain, right? That's what made me change kind of everything that I'm doing. It's not about, can I make someone lose some weight for a movie? Sure, I can do that. It's not about having a model look her best for Victoria's Secret fashion show. Sure, I can do that. But what I really am here to do is to find out what's truly going to move the needle. And that's having you first and foremost be aware of yourself. And that's quality awareness.
So, all right. So real quick on this. All right. I'm going to turn it into action. Somebody, how do they take stock on, one, their level of self-awareness, and two, do something about it or improve it, work on it? What is, I mean, we can talk about a lot of different things. How would you say go about it?
There's many different ways. I'm sure you can imagine.
Right.
One way, maybe the easiest, is to meditate, right? But for anybody, both of you guys, Serge and Jordan, when you hear me say this, I'm sure you automatically think of one thing, right? You think of, okay, this is meditation. And I think that's inherently wrong. Not to say you guys are wrong, but the idea of just thinking that meditation is one thing is inherently wrong from my perspective, right? What meditation is finding any way to tap into maybe a singular thought or many thoughts, but try to reduce the distractions. So, because at the end of the day, everything is energy, as we described. And when we think of energy vibrating at a very harmonious way, we call that music. But when it's not harmonious and it's not very pleasant, we call that what? Noise. Yeah, noise. Chaos, noise, right? So what if we think about then the noise of having negative people in your environment all the time? What if we think about the noise of being stressed out at work because you didn't hit a deadline? What about the noise of the junk food that you're eating because you only had 10 minutes to scarf it down? All of this is noise as well. So if we can reduce the noise, then I feel like we have a great opportunity to meditate, to become more self-aware. Then, okay, Josh, it's too hard for me to meditate. Okay, well, there's strategies for that. Have you ever heard of a sensory deprivation tank? Yeah. Okay. This will get right to it. Okay. Right to it. If you have any place you can go to try a sensory deprivation tank, that'll tell you who you are right away. Because the things that start to come up are the excuses as to why you don't want to tap into what's really going on up here. So some people will say, well, I'm claustrophobic. Oh, I don't know about the water. I don't know if it's going to affect my hair. I don't know. Do you have to wear earplugs? Oh, is there a light that you can turn on inside there? The point is to reduce the noise. And now you're trying to change the channel, right? The apparatus, the portal for what you need is right there, right? So sometimes the reason why people resolve to maybe psychedelics is because it's an easier vehicle. Because once you take that substance, off you go. You can't turn it down. Right? So that's when you release, and that's when you discover who you really are and who's really running the show.
So when I discovered meditation and tried a lot of different forms and practices, and by nature, it's not something that is easy and natural for me because I'm typically high strung and all of that. But the one thing that made the most sense when you describe it is it really is training attention, right? It is really, that's what it's about, is just like, can you really, and not just training attention on any external thing. It's really, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? That's why like a lot of meditation practices are about following your breath. It's easier said than done, right? but it makes you have to go inwards. And when you do that, if you practice that throughout the day, you start to become more aware of, what am I saying? What am I feeling? What am I doing? And then you start to realize, oh, I'm mindlessly eating. I'm mindlessly doing this and I'm mindlessly doing that.
Bingo.
That's
Bingo.
so. All right, we got some
Yeah.
questions coming in here.
Can I
All
just say
right,
one can I just say one thing real quick, just to touch
Yeah.
on that? Because this may be a takeaway for people. I obviously went from one extreme to the other with sensory deprivation tanks to psychedelics. There's a lot of in between. You just kind of pointed that out. Focusing on your breath is a way to do it for sure. Focusing on your heartbeat is a way to do it. Another thing that we can do also is focus on how we walk in nature, right? One quick way to understand how you move is to simply take your shoes off, right? You walk different, you run differently, you do things differently when you don't have restriction. These are ways of becoming more self-aware. So that's that.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go through and hit some of these questions. All right, can you go deeper on how you use ego? Now, this is a good question. This is from Andres. Thank you. This is a good one because the word ego has such a negative connotation, right? You could say that person is egotistical and whatever, when in reality, ego is neutral, right? Like, talk about it. Talk about how you see it and where you go with it.
I love this. This is I only came to my understanding of it because we all have different perceptions of what the ego is. And my clear understanding for me came from this journey that I did, this 5-day journey, so to speak. And the way that I use it, the way I describe it is maybe the third grade example of saying, who is Josh? Who is Sergio? Who is Jordan? It's that really we are this vehicle that our consciousness sits within and is sort of powering this vehicle, right? But the idea of Josh is the ego. Now, if you think of yourself as a negative person, then it probably fits right in line with this negative connotation of what the ego is. But if you see yourself as a balanced person, then the ego is more of your ally, your friend. It can be your friend, because what do you think of when you think of your best friend? Will your best friend get into a fight with you if you are at fault? Your best friend, right? And if your best friend is truly your friend, he will prevent you from getting into that fight if it's your fault. But you better believe that if it's not your fault, he's going to be right there to thump it down with you, right? That can be the same thing as your ego, right? Is that a bad person? No, this person is there with you through and through. He will tell you when you're doing wrong, he or she, right? But will also tell you when you will
Right.
award you when you're doing right. So and maybe a better example could be, there's moments when, let's say, we posted a video on social media, we thought it was going to hit numbers, and in the comments people are trolling and they're saying, oh, your feet are ugly, or why are you posting a picture with your shirt off because you're not ripped, and all these things. Well, when you start mulling over that for hours and thinking about, should I take it down, should I re-edit it, this and that, you can literally think to your ego, why am I overreacting in this situation? You can just kind of say, hey, thanks, but no thanks. The ego's not needed right now, because this is not a threat to me, like to my, whether I live or die, right? This is not a real threat to me. But thank you for trying to kick in, but it's all good, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, and I always think about, like, there was a book that I read that was changed my perspective. Ego is the enemy, right? Like, that's a fantastic book that tells you that your self-identity is, you have to explore that, and it can be what's holding you back. I know for me, like, the one thing that I work on more so now than ever kind of interferes, right? Like, the more that we grow as a team, as a company, life, I tell my daughter all the time, we have a big life, and with a big life comes big responsibility, and comes with, its fair share of challenges. So that is a topic that we can dive in, like, really deep on its own. Let's go to another question. Float tanks. Only problem I have is running out of time.
Agreed. I'm with you on that. Yeah, it's if you have your own float tank, great. But if you don't, then yeah, it can be a bit of a problem. And even if you do have your own, that's a issue in itself. But it is a good thing to do if you have the time to do it. Go and enjoy it, especially because you get a chance to soak up all those salt minerals that are flooded throughout that the water solution. So not only is it good for the mind, the psyche, the ego, all that stuff, but it's also really good for your body.
Awesome. All right, next question. Do you practice Vipassana meditation practice? Many things that you were talking about form the basis of this practice. I understand it. Me personally, I've tried many, many, many forms of meditation, including Osho's meditation. If you ever were exposed to Osho Beyond, the Netflix series,
Yeah.
it's a little out there, but it's really, I don't know, Josh, you ever work
Listen,
with that?
I've never done Vipassana, but I love the concept. And I think that a sensory deprivation tank in some way or another is like the man-made version of Vipassana. I think you can get there quicker, whether that's good or bad. It just is, right? What is it that you're going to do consistently? And I feel like I
Sure.
can do a sensory deprivation tank or meditate more consistently than I could ever go and do Vipassanas. However, I know so many people that have done Vipassanas and just have come out on the other side of it, just completely changed for the better.
Yeah, and I mean that's like, it really is like, keep trying it until you find something that sticks, right?
That's
Like
right.
prayer. I mean, reading the Bible. I mean, it's meditation, like you were saying earlier. It means it's whatever you can do to actually, harness and focus, right? I mean, that's a
Yeah.
thing. Next question. You spoke about quality consumption, including the energy we take in. How do you see one's community impacting awareness and overall health? This is an awesome question.
I love this
Thanks,
one.
Brandon.
Yeah, Brendan, I saw this one coming up. So I was like, oh yeah, this is a good one. So I kind of touched on it a little bit, but if you think about, what is this expression? You are what you make up what the five people around you are, something
Yep.
like that. I'm butchering it for
Yep.
sure, but
Yep.
that's that concept, right? It's the concept of we sort of another, I guess, analogy is if you're the smartest person in the room, choose another room, right?
Yep.
We want to try to be around people who add value to our experience of life. Back to, I don't know if this was actually discussed on when we were recording, but I know we talked about our logos and the difference in our logos, and there is this synergy amongst the logos that we share. So my logo represents a labyrinth in many different iterations, and so does Hearthfire, right? So like this
Yep.
is something that I thought was really cool. It's like almost like a synchronicity that just happened before we started recording. But what a labyrinth represents to me is there's no end point. It's all about the journey. It's almost like this infinite maze, if you will. But the difference between a labyrinth and a maze is that usually a maze has one way and there's an end point, right? Or maybe there's a couple of ways, but there's an end point, there's a goal. A labyrinth is that thing just keeps going. I had this great idea. Well, I think it's a great idea of doing something with an infinity symbol that I am going to be using for a lot of cool things coming in the future. And it's because it's more about this constant journey of trying to to grow, self-development, personal development. So to answer the question about quality consumption is we want to take in almost like vitamins. We want to take in all the vitamins and nutrients, but if we take in too much of it, what happens with these vitamins and minerals? We end up urinating them out. They call it expensive urine, right? Well, the same can happen if we take in too much of a good thing. If we're constantly going to a rave because all the health and wellness people are there, sure, it's good. It's what you need. It's the right people. But if you're doing it every night, you're missing out on something else, right? And so, yeah, we want to just be mindful of the fact that we have the capacity to dictate what our environment is.
Yeah. One thing that I always thought about, like, my journey was, I was born and raised in Philly, and, kind of very much on the street smart kind of way of living. And it wasn't until I started working at the Federal Reserve that I was introduced to a professional environment. And that kind of, just suggested to me, oh, maybe I'm not this. I started there when I was 18. That hey, there's a good opportunity here. So then I started surrounding myself with these people that were pouring into me, and now like I know when I go into a room and I'm like, oh, I can get some value, I can provide value, but it's got to be authentic, right? Like when as we've grown and as a family and as a community, we're exposed to more and more wealth. And I've been in rooms with extreme wealth, but very low authenticity. It's transactional. I don't want to be in that room, right? Like, so when we think about community and we think about, like you were talking about energy, I think of us as we're a radio, right? And the frequency that we operate is really what's going to drive us. Uh, the law of attraction, right? It's real. Like you don't think that these cell phones and the fact that you can actually pick it up and hear somebody that's thousands of miles away, that's insane, right? So to think that we're not an antenna, that's huge. Like I tell people, if like you're not in a good environment, change the environment,
There you go. Yeah, there's a quote that I came up with many years ago, and it goes like this, which is basically wrapping up what you just said. It goes like this: our bodies and minds adapt to what we do most of the time. If you want to change your body and mind, you must change what it is you do most of the time. So that, couple of that statement is one that there's a real big piece in the middle of those two sentences is the word if. If you want to change your body and mind, then you do, right? You do whatever. But the whole point of that is like just knowing that our bodies and minds adapts to what we do most of the time. And if I wanted to add to that, I could say our bodies and minds adapt to what we do most of the time and who we surround ourselves with or whatever, right? But it makes the quote not as pretty. But the whole point of it is recognizing if we want to make a change, but also do we have the capacity to change if we do want to? So knowing your power.
Yeah. And I, for me, it's always, I'm like on like a cat. I feel like I'm on like the fifth or seventh iteration of myself, right? Kind of just like you get to a certain point, get to a certain low, and like, okay, something's got to change. But I always found that the number one thing that gets me motivated is anchoring it to a belief. Like, what is the why? You don't just quit smoking because, it's bad for you. But sometimes it takes like that real bad medical experience, or it takes when you hurt somebody you love to really make that change. And so I focus on get me to that why, right? Like years ago, I did keto diet for a year because the one thing that triggered it is I knew that I was kind of getting out of shape, a little disproportionate. And my daughter said, "Daddy, why do you have a fat belly?" I was like, that was like, okay, all right, challenge accepted. And like, and it's there. Now it's kind of my own chatter, right? It's like, you got to make some changes, continue to grow. It's fantastic, but you got to decide, right?
That's beautiful because that goes back to that ego conversation. What did you feel in that moment when you said it was your daughter?
Yeah.
What did you feel in that moment when she said that?
I was ashamed. Like I said, I don't want her to remember me that way. A lot of people like do that. They go to the beach and they see a picture of themselves, and all of a sudden that triggers, oh my gosh, did I really get like that? Like, okay, time to do something about it. And it's like, for me, it's not what I look like in the mirror. It's how do I feel? How am I showing up? And what's my energy levels and all of that, and kind of having your, like you said, the self-awareness, right? That's huge.
If you look at that example, this is a perfect example to describe that ego, the other question that we had up there. Basically, you nailed it when you talked about having on a different suit. And I think that is cool to like have this avatar of Sergio from different moments throughout your life. And a lot of times this is a really good practice actually, is if you create an avatar or a model of yourself from the previous decades, a lot of times we look down on that that avatar, and we just kind of go, oh, it doesn't serve me any longer, get rid of it. But really, what we should be doing is appreciating those avatars, those models of who you were to get you where you are, because that's your why, is to be better, right? Is to evolve. And when we can appreciate, almost like a retro display, so to speak, right? Like, it's okay to kind of pull up these old photos and to recognize that it wasn't you, Sergio, but it's your physical body that your daughter was commenting on, right? The vehicle. And do you have the ability to allow your, the person driving that vehicle? Can that person change? Can that entity change? Right? Because the vehicle is going to do what the driver tells it to do. Right. But sometimes it's hard to sit with that. It's sometimes that's why we get different reactions from those moments, because it certainly happens all the time, because bless them, kids will be very honest with you. Right. But is that the person, do you react by going, get out of here, you don't talk like that? Well, that's the ego kicking in. Right.
That's right.
But
you don't want to hear it.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah. All right.
We got like 10 more minutes. I think that we should, so people can take something away from, a practical turn into, a lot of stuff we're talking about is on, the subconscious and the ego. Let's talk about something more actionable, right? Like, if I had 30 minutes each day to exercise, or if I had 3 days a week where I had 20 minutes, whatever it might be, and I'm trying to design also a menu and a diet for myself, right? As a 42-year-old man, a 45-year-old woman, for children, give me kind of your thoughts around that. And I know we could talk about this probably for hours, but let's just shoot on, what you've learned recently, what you're incorporating into your diet, some quick exercise stuff that I should focus on, or someone in this chat should focus on. I think that could be helpful.
Perfect. So the 5 pillars directly answer that, right? And I love the way you phrased the question, which was, okay, like, if I only have 30 minutes, what should I be doing? What should I be eating? Right? If you're doing the 5 pillars well, right? If we're doing them at quality, then the quality activeness, pillar 4, and quality exercise, pillar 5, become, if you so choose to do it.
Yeah.
Right? So those other things are important. However, I will get more actionable on this. So one thing I would say is, just try to become more aware of your body schema. Like, when you're walking around, or you're existing at work, or you're sitting in a chair, just kind of recognize, like, call your, like, with your brain, with your consciousness, focus on your foot for a moment. Recognize that you have this body, right? And then you can play around with that wherever. Like, you can play around with your balance. I think, practicing balance is a really fun thing, but not from the perspective of exercise, but from the perspective of getting to know yourself, right? Why do I have that pain in my back? Then that gives you the awareness to then realize that, oh, maybe I can change it, but I need to reduce the noise a little bit so I can hear the music. So now let's focus on our quality rest and recovery. One thing we should all be focusing on more than anything else is our sleep.
Yeah.
But I can promise you, most people here are going to go, yeah, well, I do my best work at night. Yeah, but I don't have a lot of time because I got to get this thing done. Okay, I hear you. Trust me, I hear you. We all got to work. What I'm saying is that if we spend more time focusing on the sleep, maybe you can find other ways to suffice the sleep component, the rest and recovery component. Because the feedback loop is that if we're not well rested, we don't function well, right? So that's a no-brainer. But then the real fun stuff that people like to talk about is what we eat and drink. But it doesn't have to be difficult. We make it difficult because of specialization. I talked about that before. So we want to say, well, what's the best diet? Because we need to put a label on it. But let's face it, every single person watching and listening right now, every single person knows how to be healthy. Done. End of conversation. But we're also better at making excuses as to why we don't do it. That's it, right? Amen. So until we can get better at actually doing what we know inherently is true, then why do I even give out these responses? I can put free content up, nobody will do it, but then they still want to ask me the questions. Okay, But like, what else are we doing? And I'm not saying this to be mean to anyone, but it's just, this is the tough love part. It's like, we all know. So then it goes back to awareness. If we know that we have an issue with making better decisions, then maybe that's where we lean into our community, the people who we surround ourselves with, which is also part of consumption.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe you need a trainer, maybe you need a best friend. So, and then anyway, the activeness piece, just get out, move more, find time to go out and literally walk, just walk, start there.
Josh, there was a question that came in. Sheila put it in there. I'm going to put this live answer. Of the 5 pillars, which one do you see people neglect first? And what's the earliest sign of it?
Oh, that's an easy one. I'll let you guys answer that.
It's awareness, right?
Yeah. That's why I have it number 1. I mean, and every single person that neglects it. Even the yogis, even the people who, like, all of us, we all neglect it, but what I try to do is not get down on myself if I can't do it all the time and have it be number 1. What I try to do is just get more time of doing it. So when I go for a walk, I put these sensory insoles into my shoes. I have barefoot shoes, like you talked about.
Barefoot. That's the name of the brand.
Yeah, Vivo Barefoot, right? I also, when I'm taking a step, when I'm walking, I think about lifting through my big toe. I think about how fast I'm going in like relative to the people that are moving, around me. And I kind of play Frogger when I'm walking through the city, because it's like, I don't want to, my goal is to never be bumped or touch another person, not because of germs, but just because it's fun. Can I keep moving fast? But that's how I live my life. Doesn't mean that someone else needs to do that to be healthier, but it's just, I want to be more aware.
Yeah. One easy one that I found that I think is kind of underrated is how we eat. Like, for me, it's most of the time, like, a lot of people are conditioned now to eat for speed, myself included, right? But what I want to do is, on a regular basis, sit down, give gratitude, and taste my food, right? Like, just put a fork in, watch the fork go into a carrot, watch it go into my mouth, taste it, appreciate it, right? Like,
Awareness.
that's a very, very simple thing that we can do instead of grabbing a Wawa wrap and inhaling it and then feeling like shit because you're late for a meeting and all that, right? I mean, that's kind of like, it doesn't have to be more difficult.
That's exactly it, right? And so, like I said before, we all know how to be healthy and eat healthy, but we're better at making excuses. So
That's right.
the excuse in that is, well, I'm at work all day long, I'm sitting down, I need to do X, Y, and Z. But the difficult thing to actually live with ourselves is, should I be doing this job? Should I be doing this job in this way? Is there something else I can be doing to, like, offset this? Right? Because, to be completely honest with you, we eat for sustainability, right? To sustain ourselves. That's what we're supposed, that's how we were designed to eat, to live, right? To survive. But in today's world, we eat for comfort. And oh boy, do we like to have comfort. We don't ever want to feel the pain of hunger, because we get over anxious on, but it's like the nostalgia of having that Dr. Pepper because I did it when I was a kid. Sure, do that. Because if you're living your life well, you're going through the pillars well, then you have better opportunities to enjoy those moments. So.
Yeah, I mean, I could eat junk food with the best of them, but I know that I'm going to burn it, right? I know my metabolism. I know my energy levels. I intermittent fast almost every single day. That is, I'm sure you've got some ideas around that. This has been an awesome conversation.
Real quick, Sergio, I like how you flexed on us real quick. You kind of sat back. I thought you was going to show us your abs for a second when you were talking about fasting.
No, there's no abs there. No, not now. Not now. It might come back. I use my favorite pants as my barometer as to, where I need to course correct.
Where you're at.
I'm getting there.
Go.
So this has been an awesome conversation. We didn't even get through the 5 pillars, but if you're still hanging out, awesome. If you're listening, you're watching the recording, we're going to send out a survey because we want to know, did we hit the mark? Is this valuable? I mean, if it has, please put it in the chat. We want to know, like, we'll do more of this. We can even bring Josh back and dive in a little deeper. But if you're on, you participate, you complete a survey, Hearthfire is going to buy a copy of Josh's book and send it to you. So we're going to include that in the survey. So you're going to not just get this introductory conversation, meet Josh. I know I'm super jazzed about this. Hopefully we immediately take a step back and take stock and really understand, how can we incorporate one idea, just one, like that's it. You start with one and it snowballs. Beyond that, if you're interested in learning about what Hearthfire does, if you're not already part of our, investor community, that's the other part of health, is kind of making sure that, if you've got wealth and wealthy, the rooms that you're in, the fact that you're on this webinar, you get access to a lot more resources that a lot of everyday people just miss and don't get to see. So that's another part of this. So Josh, this is awesome, man. This is a great conversation. Jordan, awesome job on kind of putting us together. Thank you.
I really appreciate this. I hope that people got some value out of this, and just know that there's a lot of ways that I show up on social media. So if people are interested, I'm sure you guys will share ways to kind of to see more of what I'm doing. But at the end of the day, I feel like what you guys are doing is special. That's why I wanted to show up, also because Jordan's a friend, and I'm proud of you, man. I'm proud of what you're up to, and I'm excited to see what Hearthfire is doing. Like this is really cool. Like, okay, all right, let's show up in a better way so we can continue to give back.
Yeah, no, I love it. Thanks, Josh. Thanks for all your time and obviously all your wisdom and insight. Whenever I talk to you, I always learn something new, and over the years, I've learned a ton. So yeah, I put the link to Josh's website on and for everyone to look at, and almost every single person, just so you know, who joined the chat is still on here. So it's been awesome. And we went a little bit off the cuff. We're usually with more structure with all of our webinars. A conversation is really a breath of fresh air, and it's been amazing. If anyone wants to reach out to me personally to continue the conversation about anything related to this or our storage operation, happy to do that. And then reach out to Josh. If you can't reach him, find me and I'll get a hold of him. But no, it's been an absolute pleasure, and hope to continue the conversation and hopefully do another iteration of this in the next couple months.
Yeah, and if you can, click on the polls on the bottom. There's a poll there. What brought you here? We're going to hang out for a minute or two. And if you have any questions or anything pop up, I mean, we're over time, but, we got till the top of the hour. I'll hang out if you guys want, and we'll just use the popcorn method. When it starts slowing down, then we'll take it all. So, Josh, man, this is awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thanks everybody for joining us too. So please hit that poll again. Hit the fill out the survey when you get it and get a copy of Josh's book. Love to support him. Love to support you all as well. So thank you all.
Thank you. All right, do I hop off or should I stay on with you guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see how still some people hanging out. If anybody wants to wait till a lot of people are gone to kind of jump in, and feel free.
Somebody's typing. The ellipses are happening. The ellipses.
There you go.
It's very cool.
All right, cool. Well, thank you, Francisco, Tom. Appreciate the feedback, Eric. Cool. All right, we'll take this as an opportunity to cut loose. Josh, again, thank you so much, brother.
Cool. Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Have a great day.
All right.
Bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Walk the talk, talking facts. Move like me, but I move a little fast. Make my move, here to last. Fasten these seatbelts, I'm coming past. Take care of me, longevity. Hack my biology, better believe. Walking the talk, soul, mind, and body connected. Better come give us a listen. Better come give us a minute or two. Open the box up, we giving you tools. Giving your engine the fuel that it needs. Breathing into it, it's autoimmune. Make a connection, we're stronger in two. Making us one of a kind of a few. Work on the mind, but show me your moves. If you do what you say, you know what to do. Yeah.
Simply walk the talk.